Copyright Jack, copyright 2021. This book is a work of fiction. The names, characters, places and incidents are the product of the author's imagination, or are used fictitiously. Any resemble to actual events, business establishments, locales or persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental, all rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording or otherwise, without prior written permission of both the copyright owner and the publisher. The only exception is brief quotations in printed reviews. The scanning, uploading and distribution of this book via the internet or via any other means without the permission of the publisher is illegal and punishable by law. Please purchase only authorized electronic editions and do not participate in or encourage electronic piracy of copyrighted materials. Your support of authors' rights is appreciated. Published in the United States of America. Copyright 2020 Victoria Pinder Love in a Book. All rights reserved. Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Bernadette sat in front of the television with her TV dinner on the tray. She made the mistake of taking off her shoes. Now her feet swelled and screamed from their release. Not a good sign since her next shift is in a few hours. No matter, time enough to relax and catch up on her favorite show. She looked around the apartment. This is what 3 honest-paying jobs got her. She shook her head in frustration. Sure, Jack was in prison, but he didn't have to make ends meet and had 3 meals a day. Hell, they even offered him work and rehabilitation. Bernadette sighed and stuck her fork into a microwaved meal. At least everything around her was hers and bought legitimately. Why does earned money buy you crappy goods? She remembered the days with Jack when they were rolling in cash. She had beautiful clothes and stayed in luxurious hotels. Life was going great until Jack got arrested. Turning over a new leaf was not easy. People were too gullible, and with Bernadette's natural affinity to con, staying on the right side of the law was a daily challenge. But a promise was a promise, no more cons. Yeah, so this is what she's earned these last few years. A small 1-bedroom apartment and enough furniture to say she isn't a vagrant. She sat back on the oversized sofa and sighed, maybe a nap instead of another episode on her DVR. Bernadette heard a light tap on her door, waking her out of her greatly needed rest. Better not be those kids again selling candy for their school, she grumbled as she looked through her peephole. Startled, she stood back and covered her mouth, not sure what to do. She heard another soft knock on the door. I must be dreaming. She looked around the room and down at her clothes and shook her head. If she were dreaming, she wouldn't be in these rags and in this apartment. Taking in a deep breath, she opened the door. He stood at the doorway looking like a breath of fresh air Bernadette didn't realize she needed. Hey babe, can I come in? Unable to speak, she opened the door enough to motion Jack inside. God damn, how can he look this good? And how was he out of prison? She finally found her voice. Hello Jack. She knew letting her ex-husband in was probably a big mistake. Jack entered the apartment, allowing Bernadette to close the door behind him. Did you escape or something? This was all she could figure. It was too soon for his parole. A deep laugh echoed through the mostly empty apartment. I am a free man. Except you have my heart. He took a step toward her. Bernadette backed away from him. She wasn't ready for whatever he had in mind. How did you find me? She moved half across the country when he went to prison and immediately sought a divorce. I don't work people anymore. I work honest jobs and… Shh, I'm not here to… He took a step closer to her. I miss you, Bernadette. You're my wife, ex-wife. She made the point. I had to move on, Jack. I don't want to go back to that life. She bit her fingernail in frustration. Why are you here? Just staring at him, she knew what he wanted. She was pretty sure her body felt the same way. Her determination faded as her whole body slumped onto the counter she leaned against. Bernadette, I was set up, you know that. I never stopped loving you. He took another step toward her. She stood straight, gaining her resolve again. I'm done with that life, Jack. We're through. You signed the papers while you were in prison. She crossed her arms, hoping he wouldn't come one more step closer to her. Inside, she was shocked how strong of an attraction she still felt toward him. Time certainly treated him well. He looked healthy with just a few age lines around his eyes. He smiled and she just melted. She felt like a high school girl again. Her heart beat faster as she held her breath unintentionally. Jack took her by the hand and pulled her into his chest. She didn't fight him. She loved the way he smelled and put her head on his chest with a sigh. I can't believe he is here, and he is holding me. He rubbed her back and rocked her back and forth for a few minutes, neither one speaking. Bernadette wanted to cry. All the stress in her life built up in the years she was alone trying to pick up the pieces to the dysfunctional life she lived with Jack. Now he was here, and a part of her wanted to just let go, and let him take care of everything. She backed away from him and shook her head. "What do you want, Jack?" It would be so easy to fall in step with him like she always did. He gets some harebrained idea and she just nodded like a simpleton. She was her own woman now. "How did you get out? Are you even supposed to be here?" Bernadette went to her front window and peeked out the curtain. That's all she needs is the police surrounding the apartment. She'd probably get kicked out of this shithole. "Honey, I'm a free man. I came here when I got out, 'cause I miss you. I know our lives became screwed up. I don't blame you for being mad." He walked over to her, pulling her away from the window. "No one is looking for me. Can't I just spend some time with you?" He turned her around, holding her back to his chest, his arms surrounding hers as he hugged her tight. Bernadette could feel his attraction through the hardness in his snug jeans. She remembered the last time they made love as husband and wife. Has it really been that long? No one has shared her bed since Jack went to prison. She had many offers, and even more opportunities. But she never used sex in a con. She and Jack had strict rules. No sex in a hustle. She closed her eyes and let Jack's hands caress her body. His breathing quickened as he found his way around her chest. "Jack, we can't do this." Her words didn't sound even marginally convincing. Jack gently faced her toward him. "Bernadette, I still love you. I still want you. There has never been another woman for me. You do know that, right?" He leaned down and kissed her softly on the lips. No cigarette smell on his breath. Maybe he has changed. She opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. She wanted to believe what she saw, what he was saying. But you can't con a con, right? And she was intimately aware of his skills. They developed routines and even nonverbal cues together. Jack looked like he just wanted to be with her. She was lonely most of the time, didn't make friends easily and never had lovers. It was strange just having Jack in her apartment, filling up this space she didn't realize she missed. "Bernadette." Jack kissed her neck, nibbled on her ear. He remembered her sensitive spots. "Jack, I don't want to get hurt again," she whispered, knowing she was about to give in to his physical manipulations. He picked her up, lifting her easily in his muscular arms and led her to the bedroom. She used his shoulder to hide her face. "I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be letting him in my bedroom." But she felt so safe in his arms, always have, even when they were just married and starting in the life. Between the pressure of pulling off a job and their natural sexual attraction, they spent many nights releasing the day's built-up stress. This is how it felt now. She felt shy suddenly, unsure what Jack would think of her body, how it has deteriorated over the last few years. Most of her muscle tone lost to non-use. "Jack," she felt her pulse increase as he gently placed her on the bed. "Tell me again, no one is looking for you." "Shh, honey, I am a free man. I have a legitimate job with legitimate wages. Hell, I pay taxes now." He took off his button-down shirt and unbuttoned the first button of his jeans. "Right now, I want to spend time with my mom." He stopped speaking and looked directly at her. "I just want to be with you, Bernadette." She felt his warm body slide in next to hers. How many nights did she wish for this the first year he went to prison? The loneliness was overwhelming. If she closed her eyes, she could pretend he never left, that their life was still as it was. So much changed since then. She learned how to balance a checkbook and budget a meager wage. It's been well over a year since she hustled anyone. Jack's eyes watched her process all these thoughts. As if reading her mind, he caressed her cheek. "Let's not think about the past, Bernadette. Just be with me now." They spent the next few hours relieving layer after layer of tension. She gave in and allowed him to slowly undress her, each piece shedding one layer of modest inhibition. Bernadette could honestly say she has never been with another man. This fact made it easier to give herself over to her first love, even if that first love caused her another heartbreak. "Jack, take me away from all this mess. Love me like this is our first and last time." He was once her husband. He knew what to do. She closed her eyes and let him find his way to her breasts, her hips, the very core of her femaleness. She didn't want the life Jack represented but needed the love he offered. "Bernadette, I'm not going anywhere without you. Give me a chance to show you how much I've changed." He rolled her on top of him, letting her set the pace with their lovemaking. "Like he never left, like I've never missed feeling him inside me like this." Their hands clasped as together they found a rhythm. She worked herself into the first of many climaxes. "I love you, Bernadette. I will always love you." Jack held out, seeming to know she needed more from him before his release. Chapter 2. Chapter 2. Jack watched her sleep soundly in his arms. So many nights while alone in prison he imagined seeing her like this, satisfied and relaxed. So much has happened since she sent him those divorce papers. What was he going to do? Make her wait for him? Not enable her to start a new life? He loved her too much to be so selfish. So of course he signed the stinking papers. Now his situation has changed. He is out of prison, employed, and has an opportunity to clear his name and make the woman who set him up pay. He also wanted to make Bernie his wife again. Jack needed her to see how he really felt. Last night he had to work twice as hard to seduce her, but she is worth every bit of energy expended, especially if she can learn to trust him again. A trust that should never have been broken in the first place. Bernadette turned over, placing his arm around her. She might be reluctant when she is awake, but her body knows they belong together. Jack held her for another hour, taking in the feel of her soft skin, the smell of their love-making. For the moment, everything was as it needed to be. It took every bit of self-discipline to let her sleep. He figured she had to work at least 2 jobs to get by. This was why their earlier life together was so perfect. They didn't have to work hard to get whatever they needed. Jack kissed her shoulder and gently he slid out of the bed. He began taking inventory of Bernadette's life. She lived in a cheap apartment and worked her ass off for what? This? If Michael is true to his word, Bernie and I can start a new life together and not be paupers. What meager furniture she had was second-hand and looked about as old as they were. He shook his head in disgust. No, this wouldn't do, not for her, not for either of them. He shouldn't have been sent to prison. He should have had this time with his wife. Helen will pay for this. First things first, make Bernadette breakfast. Hopefully the smell of fresh coffee with some bacon and eggs will entice her to stay with him today. Once he realized she didn't have any breakfast food, he borrowed her house key and went to pick up a few items at the store. He left a note on her counter. Went to pick up some groceries. Please don't leave until we talk. Jack. Bernadette woke up confused. The soreness between her legs reminded her she wasn't dreaming last night. Jack did knock on her door and she did sleep with her ex-husband. She covered her head with the blanket and sighed. What does all this mean? Where was he now? She smelled his scent on her sheets and couldn't help but smile. He knew how to make her feel like a woman, that's for sure. Jack? The place was quiet, no television on, no radio playing in the background. He might be in the bathroom. She quickly dressed and looked over at the clock. Damn, just enough time to make it to work if she left in the next 10 minutes. So much for a shower. She walked around the apartment. So much for her ex-husband. He's gone. Cynicism guided her heart most days. Then she saw the note. Shaking her head, she wondered what he had in mind. She needed to get to work, needed to pay her rent and stinking cable bill. Never mind the car payment due in 2 weeks. Bernadette, feeling overwhelmed suddenly, sat on the bar stool at her counter and began crying. She reached for her cell phone and called her boss. Doug, I'm sorry for calling on such short notice. Sniffle, sniffle. I ate some breakfast that didn't hit me right, and I'm pretty sick in the stomach. I can't hold anything down. Jesus, Jack's back for a few hours and already I'm fucking off my job. I think I need to stay near my bathroom and not contaminate anyone today. That was easy enough. She took a shower and began dressing for Jack's return. He was pleasantly surprised to see Bernadette's car still in her parking space. This gave him more hope than he realized he needed. Everything hinged on her being a part of their plan. He just needed to convince her this was the right thing to do. For him, for her, and for them as a couple. Bernadette needed to know what happened and help him make things right again. Jack grabbed the 2 bags and headed into the apartment. Bernadette already had the coffee on and was washing her dishes. He put the groceries away and stood behind her, rubbing his pelvis into her backside. His tongue licked the back of her neck as she tried to finish rinsing her dishes. Something tells me you are hungry for something. She turned to give him a sly look. I'm always hungry for you, babe, but I thought we start with some bacon and eggs. Breakfast in about 10 minutes. He kissed her on the lips, placing his hand along the back of her neck. He remembered she liked that connection with him. Lucky for you I have the day off. I don't know how long you plan on staying, but... Jack held his temper. Bernadette, I'm trying to tell you. I am free. I'm here. I don't want to be without you. He watched her turn off the water and dry her hands. You look stunning, do you know that? He couldn't believe his luck when he found out she wasn't married or even dating anyone. At least these last 2 weeks he hadn't seen anyone come or go. You work too hard, Bernie. I want to take care of you. I have a good job, make good money. Nanby. Jack stopped her from walking away from the sink. He wrapped his arms around her slight waist and pulled her to him. Hear what I have to say, my ideas. If you don't agree, I'll let you go. I can't ask you to give me what you don't have. But I feel there is still something between us and I won't give up on that. He brought her face close to his and kissed her softly on the lips. He could taste the fruity flavor from her lip gloss. She smiled at him, shaking her head. Make us some breakfast, I'll set the table and you tell me what you plan to do with your new life of freedom. That was all he needed, for her to give him and them another chance. He knew that once she learned the truth, she would want exactly what he wanted: revenge. Jack set about making breakfast for the two of them, anxious to include her in his plan to get his life back. I'm telling you, Bernie, what happened was a setup, plain and simple. Helen Hathaway made a pass at me and I rejected her. In her mind, no one says no to her. She set me up by telling the police I stole a gem from her, but you and I both know that was a lie. She was just angry she couldn't have me and tried to get rid of me. Bernadette didn't speak but continued to eat. I forgot how terrific your breakfasts are, she moaned after the first few bites, then finally looked up at Jack. I don't think you remember a lot of what we had between us, Bernie. Jack frowned. He knew this would get her riled up. They were high school sweethearts and married as teenagers, before they truly understood their people gifts. You can't be serious, Jack. Even though we are divorced, I still can't bring myself to bring another man into my bed. Sure, on paper we are separate. I have only moved on to the extent that I need to earn a living to put this shitty roof over my head and feed myself. This wasn't the plan, Jack. Now you come back and try to sweep me off my feet again. To what end, huh? What do you really want from me? What do I need to do to move on with my lowly but clean life? This was the Bernadette he needed. One that was fired up and ready for action, not the apathetic one going through the motions of a half-life. I want you to come with me to meet Michael, my boss. Together we are going to clear my name and put Helen behind bars for insurance fraud. He watched Bernadette process this information. She had questions, but she didn't outright say no or fuck off. This was a good sign. So who is this boss of yours? Is he a con too? No, he's a legitimate businessman, a billionaire. He was wrongfully convicted of killing his parents and sent to prison. I work for him now. I draw a paycheck. I'm not conning. So he helps you, then you help him. Where do I fit into this scenario? Jack knew she would help. He needed her for more than the plan. Baby, listen, I know you had to fend for yourself. You did well for how bad things turned out. I'm here now, I'm not leaving or going back to prison. I need you, I love you, and I still want you by my side. Not just every night, but every day. I want to get back to where we used to be, just without all the big scams and deals. He knelt beside her and took her hand. Please come with me to see Michael and let's get our life back, together. Without you, all of it is for nothing. He looked at her, not blinking, not breathing. Bernadette took another couple of bites with her free hand, still staring at him. I still have my 3 jobs I need to consider. When do we meet this Michael character? Jack showed her 2 first-class tickets and asked her to pack her prettiest clothes. We are heading to Miami, darling. He kissed her hand, giving her the biggest smile. This was the first time since his release he felt like they were moving toward justice. How long do you think we'll be gone? Depends on how the meeting goes and if you agree to the plan. At least a couple of weeks, I figure. A couple of weeks. Damn it, Jack. I won't have any job by then. Again he could see his ex-wife's head spinning, thinking about her future. He looked around and frowned. Bernadette, I promise you, you will never have to live like this again. You won't need 1 job, let alone 3. Just come with me and we'll get our lives back. I'll come with you, Jack, Bernadette answered, sounding defeated. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. After making a few phone calls, Bernadette managed to get some time off from work. Still not sure how long she will be out of town. She didn't want to burn any bridges and be homeless again. What time do we leave for the airport, and what should I do with my car? Jack looked up from his cell phone and smiled. Takeoff is in 3 hours. He made another text, then pocketed the phone. Do you want to put it in that parking garage down the road? I can pay for a couple of months to keep it safe. A few months? I am still making payments on that car. She watched him text again and her frustration built. Is that a burner phone? Bernadette was still very suspicious over this job and her ex-husband. No baby, it's my work phone. I was texting Michael. He is going to meet us for lunch later today. How much do you owe on the car? She looked at him, unwilling to share her burdens with him. Yes, she was lonely, but whatever she had was hers. She earned it, and it didn't feel right to just let Jack come in and take over. They looked at each other. Still she said nothing. Bernie, let me take care of you. I respect what you had to do while I was gone. But you don't have to do this all by yourself anymore. We can be together. She heard the anguish in his voice and softened. She didn't want to do any of this by herself. She didn't want this debt she accumulated in only a couple of years. 2,400. Tell you what, when we finish this job, she began to stand up, unwilling to begin their lives together on the wrong side of the law. Jack put his hand up in attempt to dissuade her from leaving the room. What I mean, baby, is when we put Helen behind bars and clear my name, we will be able to pay off your car, any credit cards, and find a nice place to live. Does that sound legitimate enough? She sat down, deflated, and finally coming to the realization that no matter what happened, she didn't want to be without Jack. That was the plain truth. She loved him more than anything or anyone, and even 3 years without him was too long. Yes, sounds just perfect, Jack. She knew she didn't sound enthusiastic, but he was going to have to just deal with it. I need time to get used to not being alone and doing things for myself, okay? Jack nodded. A small grin popped up at the corner of his mouth. Bernadette knew that look. He was feeling smug, like he just won something big. That would be the truth. She would go with him whether it was a smart idea or not. She loved Jack Fitzgibbons for richer or for poorer. Fortunately with him, the richer part is their standard of living. The lure of a better life enticed her almost as much as her love and attraction to Jack. So, she leaned back on the sofa and slowly stretched her long legs. What do you want to do for an hour or two? That small grin of Jack's grew into a wide smile, revealing sparkling white teeth, reminding Bernadette of the big bad wolf. She smiled back. Do you want me to start without you? With a quick wink she turned and began casually undressing as she headed to the bedroom. She guided him onto the bed. This time she stripped him of his clothing. She reacquainted herself with each body part. A kiss here, a pinch there. Inch by inch she slowly familiarized herself with each muscle, his most prominent one, ready and at attention. I see some things don't change even after 3 years. Her left hand reached for his hardness, stroking gently with steady pressure. I've missed feeling your grow in my hands. I can show you more of what you've missed. My turn now. I want to taste you and feel your tongue inside me. She turned her body, giving him a glimpse of what he missed these last few years. God, Bernadette, I've never seen a woman as beautiful as you. He brought her closer to his mouth, tasting her arousal. She held his member at the base, licking along its front and back, her tongue still not touching the tip. This she wanted him to beg for. If memory served, it would only take a few licks of his sax. His mouth clamped onto her butt as he gently manipulated it with his tongue. Jack, that feels so good. She returned the favor by kissing the tip of his manhood. He continued with some suction, while placing his right index finger inside her, his thick digit easily finding that perfect spot deep inside her. Oh my God, Jack, that's it. He found her spot so quickly, even she had trouble finding it on her own. She forgot all about teasing him and inhaled his hardness, creating her own suction on his member. The two of them came together in love and lust after such a long time apart from each other. Bernadette was the first to scream her release, which caused Jack to explode from the vibration at the same time. I missed our foreplay, Jack. She turned toward him and smiled, her head on his chest. Did he really get out early or am I still dreaming? He turned her onto the bed, spread her legs to fit himself between them. His hands caressed her breasts. I've missed everything about you, baby. He was already hard again. Let me show you how much. And he entered her as they continued to bond on a physical level. Just enough time before we have to, Jack, go to the, Jack, yes, Jack, airport. She finished her sentence but forgot what she was saying as he brought her to yet another climax. Bernadette remembered what an awesome lover he was, and how stupid she became after their lovemaking. At this moment she didn't care, she just wanted to feel normal again, and normal meant in Jack's arms. Jack returned the car he rented when they reached the airport. He seemed to be quite comfortable with money. Bernadette kept watching him, trying to see if he was lifting wallets or conning some sucker. How can you afford to buy first-class tickets? She knew she sounded like a nagging wife, but she didn't want to get caught and go to prison. My boss Michael Haniel bought them. Here. He handed her Michael's business card. He probably put them on his business account since I do work for him. She was satisfied for the moment they weren't in any immediate danger from the law. Old habits die hard, I guess. She shrugged and followed him to their assigned seats on the plane. Jack gave her the window seat, remembering she loved to watch the view of life from this distance. She imagined seeing herself as she parked her used car in front of her crappy apartment. Coming home from one of her low-paying jobs, thought about just last night when she was eating a frozen meal, watching TV. And in the span of 12 hours, here she was sitting on a first-class seat to Miami. Jack grabbed her hand and squeezed. For For the first time she saw a real vulnerable side of him, like he wasn't sure about the outcome of the plan. Bernadette appreciated this thought. If he wasn't sure, maybe he would be more careful. Maybe neither one of us will end up in prison this time. She squeezed back, giving him a slight nod of understanding. So, is this where you live now? Bernadette noticed all the Valentine's Day sales just along the waterfront. Jack knew how much she loved this special day. She wondered if he even noticed what day it was. This is a posh section of the city. You know, we never took a real vacation, Jack. I'm sure we can make time for some fun in the sun. As for where I live, I guess that depends on where you want to be. This is where Michael lives and works. He should be here soon. The maitre d' looked up their names and scowled at their attire. Yes, I see a table for 3. This way please. Mr. Haniel has not arrived yet. Thank you. I would like a tall Coke and a menu, and the lady a Renault. The two men looked over at Bernadette, patiently waiting for a response. She was surprised Jack didn't order a cocktail. Another surprising change. No smoking and no alcohol. I would like a cup of coffee. And what is the lunch special? The Mediterranean salad is the favorite, madam, the stuffy man answered. I'll have the special and a coffee, please. She answered with an air of haughtiness the maitre d' responded to. He bowed deeply and found their waitress, who promptly brought Jack his menu. Hello, I'm Mariah, your waitress this afternoon. I see you ordered the special. Here is your menu, sir. Can I get either of you an appetizer while you decide? We have homemade chips and salsa, 3 degrees of heat. She poured 3 glasses of water and waited while Jack decided he meal. I'll have the quarter-pounder medium with the works, and the chips sound perfect, thank you, Mariah. The two sat together, neither one speaking for several minutes as the restaurant began to fill with patrons. Jack cleared his throat. I booked us at the hotel we passed on our way here. Maybe if I make it fun enough, you can consider this a vacation? Bernadette wanted to think Jack was truly just being thoughtful. She wasn't convinced he wasn't leading her from the straight and narrow life she committed herself to. What time is Michael supposed to meet us? He checked his cell phone for a text. I assume he is on his way. I don't have any messages telling me otherwise. The waitress brought their meals. This was the best restaurant meal Bernadette ate in the last 3 years. She only allowed herself to eat takeout or fast food on rare occasions. Jack offered her half of his burger and she let him pick out the tomatoes in her salad. They ate like 2 teenagers enjoying a first date. Bernadette missed this companionship with him. Well, even if Michael doesn't show up, flying to Miami for lunch has been a treat. Something inside kept her from believing Jack really had a new life, a real boss and a solid plan to clear his name. But since this was her first time in Miami, she decided to go with the adventure. The hotel Jack mentioned was luxurious, and she couldn't pass up an opportunity for a real hot shower and possible hot tub bath. She watched Jack continue to look around the room, presumably looking for his boss and not casing the place. Hard to tell. It took her 2 years to not look for easy marks wherever she went. It took taking herself out of the situations to stop the pattern of looking for the con. This is how she became a homebody. Well, that and not having the money to go anywhere. But finding money has never been a problem. The two of them together have made acquiring money an effortless undertaking. But in all their years together, they never found a permanent place to live. And while they both decided not to have children, Bernadette still desperately wants a real home. You're in your head again, Bernie. Jack reached for her hand and squeezed. I admit, Jack, this is all so sudden. I can't help being skeptical about all this. He nodded and pursed his lips, standing up suddenly. Michael, glad you can make it. This is Bernadette. Bernadette, this is Michael Haniel. Pleasure to finally meet you, ma'am. I've heard so many wonderful things about you. Michael's smile looked genuine and Bernadette smiled back. Nice to meet you, Mr. Haniel. Michael, please, may I join you too? I apologize for my tardiness. Yes, please do. Jack mentioned he is currently in your employment. The two men looked at each other and Michael sat down. No one spoke for several minutes while Michael ordered a beer and casually looked her over. He's probably trying to gauge my trustworthiness. I must say, your arrival is a relief. As much as I am enjoying Miami, my whole life has been upturned by this notion of my ex-husband. Jack laughed, clearing away any tension around the table. What I tell you, Michael, she tells you how she sees it, not mincing words or sugarcoating her feelings. He reached for Bernadette's hand again and beamed a smile at her. I say we get down to business and let the two of you get reacquainted. Michael sat back and began explaining their ideas. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. First, let me say, Jack is in my employment. I, too, was wrongfully imprisoned for the murder of my parents. Together we made a pact that once I got out, I would arrange for his release. We would do whatever it took to clear our names. He stared directly at Bernadette, waiting for any sort of response. I am the head of a billion-dollar corporation with enough money and influence to help Jack clear his name and put Helen Hathaway behind bars where she belongs. But your money didn't keep you out of prison, did it, Michael? Bernadette stated the obvious. With all your clout and connections, you still got screwed. How can I be sure neither one of us won't end up in prison or worse, dead? How do I know helping you won't make us loose ends where you won't want to help Jack clear his name? Jack remained silent and let Michael answer Bernadette's questions. That is a fair question. May I call you Bernadette? She nodded and waited for him to address her legitimate concerns. I am willing to help Jack clear his name before he helps me with my situation. And as you are not currently in my employment, I don't expect you to participate in Jack helping me clear my name. What we need from you is key to the whole plan. Have you ever met Miss Hathaway? Bernadette didn't personally know Helen but understood she was the instigator of her husband's incarceration. I don't believe so. The name does sound familiar, she shrugged. It might help you to know Helen owns the factory where you work, Michael offered around the table. A light went off in her head. Several months ago, she remembered seeing this arrogant woman inspecting the floor where she worked. Bernadette could not help but notice the Prada shoes Helen wore while her own feet lived in holy sneakers. I remember seeing Helen. The venom in her voice encouraged Michael to continue his ideas. Our plan is for you to meet Helen and become her personal assistant. She is a brutal employer and can't keep an assistant more than a couple of weeks. I believe she is currently without one now. It's common knowledge how poorly she treats her assistants. She doesn't care about anyone as long as they make her money. But the personal assistants get the worst of her. She treats them like slaves most of the time. What do I need to do once I become her PA? So far nothing sounded against the law. We create an opportunity for her to trust you and spill the beans on her insurance fraud. She is so smug she wouldn't think her umpteenth PA would dare to implicate her in any such scheme. But her last 3 personal assistants have conveniently vanished. No one can find where they are. I have hired 2 private investigators, and they both think they are either dead or in some witness protection program. Within days of leaving Helen's employment, they just poof. He made an open hand in the air motion and stopped speaking. Bernadette didn't realize how shady Helen Hathaway was. Already she began coming up with ideas of how to get into her circle of acquaintances. She looked at the 2 men and smiled. Okay, here's the deal. I will help clear Jack's name and put Miss Prada behind bars. But in order to fit in, I will need a whole new wardrobe, 2 cell phones, a decent place to reside. It can be a hotel, I don't care. I just need to keep up appearances. The men nodded, both smiling over Bernadette's decision to help. In addition to that, I will need some electronic equipment. I will need 3 mini microphones, ones that I can attach to various pieces of jewelry or furniture, her mind easily going back to her formal lifestyle in the flip of a mental switch. Also, let's get me a pen with a camera. I have a feeling she will be signing all types of papers I might be able to capture visually. I'll let you know once I'm hired if I will need anything else. But I think that is a good start. She looked between the 2 men and smiled. Already her adrenaline was pumping and her mind flying in many directions, planning, plotting and calculating with the skill of a savant. Michael, anticipating her answer, offered her a credit card, one with her real name on it. There is $100K on the card. This is just a small portion of the payment. Let me know if you need more to prepare. Bernadette sat looking at the plastic card in front of her. She refused to let her conscience ruin this moment with sensibilities. Jack still hadn't said anything since introducing her to Michael. They looked at each other, not speaking, both realizing the depth in which they would be indebted to Michael Haniel. A familiar twinkle lit up her ex-husband's eyes. At least she will help him clear his name so he can move on with his life. She wasn't stupid or naive. She knew this would be just the beginning of many shady jobs Jack would be obligated to help Michael with. This required a lot of contemplation. She thought best in a hot tub. Well, gentlemen, I think we have concluded our business here. I suggest you give me a week to gather my supplies, and Jack, if you can find a way for me to meet Helen Hathaway. Michael, realizing his part of the plan was complete, stood up. Allow me to cover your tab. He bowed at Bernadette and nodded to Jack. If you need anything, you know how to reach me. Jack stood up and shook Michael's hand. Yes, thank you again for your trust, Michael. Now close your eyes, Bernie, please. Jack implored when she resisted playing his game. Jack, you don't have to do this. I'm already in, you heard the conversation. Still, he was adamant. You're going to love this, trust me. Finally she agreed and stood with her eyes closed in the hallway of the hotel room. Jack opened the door and gently guided her into their room. Okay, now you can open your eyes. Bernadette peeked one eye open, then opened both, surprised by what she saw. In addition to the obvious luxury of the suite, Jack decorated each area with Valentine flowers, chocolates, fruit, and a sexy teddy. Oh my God, Jack! She walked around and smelled the roses and the mixed flower bouquets, nibbled on a chocolate-covered strawberry. How can I forget your favorite day of the year? I dreamed of seeing this very look on your face. Bernadette turns to Jack and tried to understand the man she was once married to. You do realize Michael is probably more formidable than Helen Hathaway could ever be, don't you? How well do you know this man? Has he asked you to do anything else for him while you are employed by him? Is he paying for this suite? She sat down on the sofa and kicked off her old shabby shoes, silently promising them they won't ever have to suffer in cheap plastic again. Jack sat next to her, stunned by her barrage of questions and mistrust. Baby, you know everything. She remembered the conversation with her grandmother before she passed away. I didn't tell you Gran died just after you went to prison. She made me promise to turn over a new leaf once you weren't influencing me. I've kept my word, well, mostly, until now. She must be turning over in her grave knowing I'm working with you again and living above my means. Jack stood up and pushed his hair back with his hand in frustration. Bernadette, do you really think we are breaking the law? I didn't steal her fucking gem. I didn't sleep with her, so she decided to set me up. Wait until you meet that piece of work. You might not believe me right now. Somewhere inside you must, or you wouldn't be here with me in this suite that I'm paying for. I picked it out with you in mind. Every stinking thing in this room was put here just for you. Bernadette closed her eyes. Her mind and heart were at such odds. If she was being honest, and right now she didn't want to be, she would admit she was just as much a con artist as Jack was, even a better con than he was. Men were suckers for women and she took advantage of them even now in subtle ways. She shouldn't be a hypocrite. She wanted the adventure as much as she wanted Jack to have his name cleared. Where does that leave them as a couple? Jack, I still love you. You still make every hair on my body raise when you whisper your sweet words in my ear. But so much has happened these last few years. We need to take us slower. I cannot just jump back in and be your wife. She saw the dejected look on his face and her heart almost broke in half. But I will be your Valentine. Jack picked her up in one swoop and carried her to their bathroom with the oversized bathtub. All around were a dozen jets. She took the longest bath in years. Jack put in sweetly scented soaps that made red bubbles. A hot bath is the best place to sort out problems or puzzles. Bernadette had a couple she wanted to work on with Jack. So, you are sure Michael isn't this billionaire mobster? Jack joined her in the tub, spending a few minutes to let the hot water soothe his muscles. I know he isn't a mafia mobster, he is a corporate billionaire. I'm sure they have their own sort of money loopholes that allow them to keep more than their share of profits. But he doesn't keep an entourage or even have a personal assistant. He has a secretary in his office and a housekeeper that comes 3 times a week. Other than that, he is fierce in the boardroom and is driven to make the people who killed his parents pay. Bernadette knew the type, typical of men who spent time in prison. He keeps people at bay so they can't screw him over. Michael might not be a mobster, but the people who set him up sure are. She looked over at Jack, her eyes softened as fear ran through her veins. You intend on being point man for his big revenge plan. So many things can go wrong in so many ways. There is a very good chance he will be hurt, caught or dead at the end of that scenario. How could she move forward with a relationship with him? Losing you again would break my heart. I don't know if I could go through it again. Jack slid closer and wrapped his arms around her. I would never do anything that would put you or us in jeopardy. That's not the right answer and you know it. How can you not take risks? If you go into that job distracted and not on your game, things will go wrong. She sighed in frustration. I don't want you to bail on Michael. I understand he got you out and gave you a job. I'm just saying this life is exhilarating, is exciting, is stressful, is dangerous. We were doing jobs for peanuts compared to Michael's world. The people he is going against may not be mobsters, but I'm sure they have the police on their payrolls. We've been working out this plan for 18 months now. I won't take any unnecessary risks, not for you and not for me. Michael doesn't want any more bloodshed. She pointed her long legs up out of the bath and considered what her feet would look like in those very shoes Helen Hathaway was wearing that one day. Red leather with straps that said I'm in charge. Bernadette could feel the power emanating from Helen even then, and not knowing how evil she really was. Tomorrow I'm going to buy myself the same Prada shoes Miss Hathaway wore the day I saw her. For the moment she forgot about Michael and his problem, and began focusing again on the job at hand. Looking over at Jack, she licked her lips and slid over, placing herself on top of him. For the first time since he knocked on her door, she kissed him first. Ignoring all the warning signs her gran put in her head. Ignoring the fact that she was again going to trick someone out of something she wanted. She slid him inside her and sighed, knowing he was more than ready for her. Bernadette closed her eyes and moved her body with Jack. Together they made love, finding again their natural rhythm together. Nothing she did the last few years satisfied her more than what she shared with Jack. The two of them snuggled in the luxurious sheets, sated after a few hours in the tub, and finally in the bed. Just as she was falling asleep, she spoke from her heart. "I will help you clear your name, Jack, but I still can't trust that you won't break my heart again." Chapter 5. Chapter 5. Right. Confirmed. The Burke's art auction in 2 days. I'll make sure she gets to meet Helen. Jack nodded at Bernadette as he hung up the phone. Michael arranged for you to represent him at the auction. There are a few items he wants you to bid on. He says you can go up to 15 million between the 3 pieces. Bernadette's eyes widened. This was the first time she had such a budget. I imagine he will send the catalog with the pieces listed for me? Yes, it will be available in the car he's sending for you. Is there anything you need yet to prepare? Bernie kept an emotional distance between the two of them. They had sex frequently, that's a good start. During the day she kept to herself while shopping and grooming. At night she spent hours learning how to be a personal assistant. Several times he heard her rehearsing her story out loud. He knew she didn't want to con anymore. She wanted a normal life. He didn't know how to give that to her. For 10 years they lived a life outside the law, never getting caught. The couple only conned those who could stand to lose some of their money. They weren't bank robbers or life insurance swindlers. They kept away from all those pyramid schemes. No. Jack looked the part of the wealthy peer and patiently divested many, a small portion of their wealth. He learned a trick or two from Bernadette over the years. Her feminine wiles opened doors they never would have walked through had she not been so stunning. When she turns her doe eyes on a mark, they can't help but want to do anything they can to help her or make her happy. Admittedly, that's what attracted Jack to her in high school. Even now, when she looked at him with those dark, innocent-looking eyes, he loses himself. She doesn't realize how beautiful she is. Standing flat-footed, she is 5'9" and 6 feet in high heels. Her olive complexion is flawless, and her slender build puts her on par with any runway model. She cut her hair since he went to prison. The new shoulder length gave her a more sophisticated look. How many men could say they were still in love with their high school sweetheart more than 10 years later? Of course, choosing to not have children was another smart decision. Neither one of them wanted the responsibility. It kept them from pursuing the hedonistic lifestyle they desired. Most men want to have their name passed on for generations. Jack didn't have the best childhood and certainly wasn't any child's moral compass. If he wasn't grifting, what would he do? Be a mechanic and get grease around his fingernails? No, he wanted to look good and make Bernadette proud to be with him. Working for Michael was a smart choice. Once these 2 jobs are over, Michael will groom him to become a tycoon. He already began investing in some of the same stock as Michael's company. Jack didn't want to work hard to make money. Never has and didn't want to start now. Prison might have been the best thing that ever happened to him and Bernadette. He just needed to get her to see that. Secretly, he was proud of the way she prepared for the job. Helen Hathaway might be meeting her match in Bernadette. Jack was so sure that once they met, Bernie would fully get on board and not be so distant. He wanted his wife back, to take care of her and give her anything she wanted in life. This has always been his goal in life. Maybe after all this, they can move forward, together. Bernadette looked at herself in the mirror. What a difference money makes on the physical appearance of a person. To prepare, she added highlights to her rich, chestnut-colored hair. A full spa day removed layers of dead skin and blemishes, 3 jobs created over time. Finally, a suit that showed power and comfort and wealth. She remembered exactly what Helen wore that day at the factory. The outfit Bernadette selected accented her slender body in all the right places. The navy blue color signified a less aggressive demeanor. As the plan was to become Helen's personal assistant, her outfit was perfect. Her Prada shoes were dyed the same shade as the suit she wore. Bernadette couldn't help but buy them. They represented everything she desired in life. Preparing for the job this week reminded her how much she appreciated the finer things in life. She felt like herself again. Waking up in Jack's arms brought back memories of the happy life they shared together for years. This time she wasn't going to squander all the money she earned. She wanted to build a savings until they decided what to do once the jobs are complete. Surely there is a way to maintain a decent lifestyle without conning. Jack entered the room and whistled. Now this is how I remember my wife. Bernadette laughed, too excited about the day to remind him they weren't married. Funny how a bit of money changes everything. Michael's car will be here in 15. You look like you will be ready. She felt nervous for the first time. So much was riding on her impressing Helen and becoming her assistant. Jack won't truly be free until his name is cleared. One step at a time. Hey, I've seen you prep for this all week. You got this, babe. Helen won't be able to resist hiring you. You look better than she ever could with $1 million. He squeezed her hands as the two of them made their way down to the waiting car. I'm positioning you to the front on the left. Michael set up a spot for you so everyone can see when you bid and what you are bidding on. Helen doesn't even have as good a seat, and she will be able to observe you the whole time. Here is your earbud. We can communicate easily without her knowing I'm even at the auction. She doesn't know I'm out of prison. Bernadette watched Jack make a fist. Maybe he was telling the truth. Again, as if reading her mind, he took her hand. The cell phone buzzed between them. That's Michael. He placed the phone on speaker. Are you both there? He asked. We are, they answered in unison, smiling at each other, still holding hands. I was finally able to track down one of Helen's prior personal assistants. Megan is now living in Paris, France, attempting to write the next bestseller. Helen paid her off and made her sign a non-disclosure of her time of employment. I had to offer her a better deal than Helen. Still, because of the NDA, whatever she said can't be used without her going to jail. But she offered specific details pertaining to Jack's setup. Helen was in a fit from being rejected. Megan heard Helen promise Jack she would ruin him. Megan watched Helen's security guard lift Jack's fingerprint off a bottle of beer and a glass of Grand Royal whiskey. They planted his prints in a couple of places where the jewel was known to be stored. Then she wiped her security camera, making it look like a planned heist. Megan knows where the missing jewel is hidden. We need to get Bernadette in her personal residence, that's where it is. Bernadette looked over at Jack. He was sulking. She knew what that meant. He was feeling a sense of self-righteous indignation. Even though Jack was a thief, he was fair-minded. She began to believe the story. An angry resolve filled her to her core as she straightened her shoulders. I'm ready. She entered the auction house. Most of the participants were regular buyers. Seeing Bernadette walk in with her killer outfit and flawlessly put together caused a quiet stir. With an air of arrogance, she took her place and waited patiently for the auction to begin. The catalog offered about 70 items. Michael wanted her to obtain 3 if possible. 30 minutes later, the first item was up for purchase. A 17th century painting from an obscure artist from the Netherlands. Bernadette never heard of him. Helen was also bidding for this piece. Don't go over $9.5 million for this one, Bernie, she heard in her ear. She gave a slight nod in understanding. The bidding started at $750,000. A bidding war ensued between Helen and Bernadette. Helen being the triumphant one at $10 million. The two women acknowledged each other, Bernadette nodding to her opponent and smiled. She noticed Helen continue to observe her, not realizing both she and Jack were watching her the whole time. 2 hours later, the auction concluded. Bernie successfully bought the other 2 items Michael was requested. Sun shabbat to the ladies' room to refresh herself. Helen Hathaway entered as she was reapplying her lipstick. Helen stood at the mirror next to her and copied her action. Well done, Miss Beau. Bernadette, and you are? She answered nonchalantly, primping her hair. Helen Hathaway of Hathaway Industries. Bernie nodded, looking unimpressed. Her cell phone rang. Yes, sir. I obtained 2 of the 3, sir. I'll take care of it and package the items for you. See you then. She let out a big sigh and shook her head. Helen was still standing looking at her. Men are so frustrating to work for. They don't understand women can multitask. She smiled and looked over at Helen, attempting to give her an opening. I bet I could pay you twice what a man is willing to pay you and give you most weekends off. Bingo. Bernadette gave Helen a look of incredulity. Just so you know, I'm not hired just for my looks. I am the whole package. Clearly, Helen nodded. They were counting on Helen acting on her impetuous nature. I'm willing to offer you close to 7 figures with a startup bonus and another after 3 months if you continue to progress in my employment. Jack was able to hear and see Helen through the camera in her necklace. See what I mean, babe? She's so sure of herself. He laughed in her ear. You didn't even have to sell yourself. Where, may I ask, do you run your company? Right here in Florida. Much of my sales are exported, so it's easier to be close to the shipping docks. How convenient for us then. Bernadette looked in the mirror and pursed her lips, checking her lipstick again. I assume you will offer me at least a 1-year contract. Helen pulled out a business card. On the back is my personal cell phone number. Call me in 2 days and we will arrange your new employment. She looked Bernadette up and down, getting a final mental picture. Bernadette barely nodded and continued to groom herself in the mirror as Helen exited the restroom. Well done, babe, she heard Jack in her ear. Meet you in the car. Bernadette sat next to Jack with Michael on the speakerphone. Great job on the purchases, Bernadette. We figured Helen would want that painting and draw you to her attention that way. You handled yourself like a pro. That woman is so hard up she gravitates to anything new that she doesn't already own. She got a good read on Helen and knew exactly how to play her. She doesn't trust men. They are low on her respect list. All I needed to mention was how frustrating men were and she swooped in on me. Michael, can I use your name as my most recent employer? Or do you think she would research and figure out the connection between you and Jack? Good question if she asks. Just tell her you were doing some temp job with some executive who you never really met. All your work for him was more errands than in an office or personal home. You were always picked up for work in a car and paid by direct deposit. You only worked a few jobs for him. That of course I would understand if you found full-time employment. Bernadette liked the practical way Michael thought. I can see why Jack trusts you, Michael. I'll stick to that story, it's easy enough and I doubt she care either way as long as I bend to her will. Megan did offer one piece of advice. Just don't tell her no. Find creative ways and thoughts to solve problems and she will easily trust you. Telling her no is the worst thing you can do. Her ego is bigger than the Statue of Liberty. When push comes to shove, she solves everything with money. She could figure that out with the money thrown at her to be a personal assistant. I'm to call in 2 days to arrange my start. Bernadette, I have conveniently replaced one of her PIs with one of my own. He has your whole history. Beside you is the folder with the information you supplied. Let me know if you need any changes before he gives it to Helen. I'll look at it tonight. Once they were alone, Bernadette faced Jack. The excitement of working together again was stimulating. Knowing there was a 60-minute ride back to the hotel, she took advantage of their alone time. Will you put up the divider? She began undressing, slowly unbuttoning her blouse, her ample breasts peeking out of the lace bra she wore. She didn't wear any hose as her legs were still well-toned and tan. Jack put up the divider and watched as she seduced him. Bern, it's like we never skipped a beat. Shh. She reached between his legs, feeling his member grow in her hand. In one easy motion she unzipped him, giving him a few long strokes as she positioned herself on top of him. This power suit gave her back her confidence as a woman, and as a con artist. It did make her feel closer to Jack, but for the wrong reasons. Still, she had all this pent-up excitement from playing Helen and making a shitload of money in just 1 week. When she thought about the sign-on bonus, she got more excited. She mounted Jack, easily sliding him inside her as they moaned in sync. She stared into his eyes and saw all the love he felt for her. She felt that love too, but knew if he was her focus, she wouldn't get this job done. They moved together, their bodies still finding their natural rhythm. It didn't take long for her first release. Jack, Jack, don't stop, again. She kissed him hard on the lips. I love you, Bernadette. He closed his eyes and let her bring him to his first orgasm, then her second. She was panting, her body not wanting to release Jack from inside her. She knew this would probably be the last time they were this intimate until the job was complete. She didn't want this distraction. He made her feel whole and loved and sexy and wanted. Maybe after this job was done and his name was cleared, we can start a new life together. Jack, you know I love you. What I need from you is time to work this job. He looked at her, his eyes pierced at her like a bird of prey. From now until this job is completed, I want us to be strictly colleagues. I need to stay on my game. I know Helen is going to take a lot of my time and energy and I don't want to screw this up. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Jack gave Bernadette the bedroom and took the sofa. She knew he was hurt over her decision but didn't want to change her decision. She missed him holding her at night, missed his light snore, the soft hairs on his chest. She woke up early this day to get ready to meet Helen. Jack didn't wake up with her pitter-patting around the suite. She looked down at him. He was so peaceful when he slept, like nothing in the world could be out of place. In the first few months after Jack went to prison, she held out hope his case would be appealed. She dreamt every night of his return and desperately missed his guidance. 2 years later, she became her own woman, not relying on a man to take care of any of her needs. Part of her saw herself in Helen Hathaway, but couldn't bring herself to be so ruthless. When this job is done, I will find a way to make money without a con. She just didn't know what kind of future that would leave for her and Jack. Quietly, she spent the next 2 hours getting ready for her first day as Helen's PA. True to his word, Michael's man offered Helen a fictitious background. Some of the information was left vague to allow Helen to question Bernadette's past. She knew how to work a conversation, to manipulate emotional responses from her marks. Helen would be no exception. Just give her a week around Helen and she will become her best friend and confidant. Bernadette had no problem doing what she needed to do to get Helen to confess to framing Jack. Bernadette? Helen didn't believe in intercoms. She always expected her PA to be within earshot. She calmly walked into Helen's office, tablet in hand, and waited for her boss to give the next set of instructions. Do you mind closing the door? Helen looked exasperated. Her typically impeccable hair was disheveled, and she had practically no makeup on. Once Bernadette had the door closed, Helen motioned for her to sit in front of her in the desk. Marty, my attorney, just sent me the divorce papers from my soon-to-be ex-husband. He's trying to rake me over the coals here. Did you sign a prenup? Bernadette kept an even tone to her voice, trying to sound as interested as she could. Well, we never did around to that. Helen gave an exasperated sigh. I thought he would finally be the one. She threw her pen down and sat back in her seat. He's asking for 25% of my company. My company, not his. I brought this company to what it is now. I inherited it from my father and worked my ass off to make my Forbes rating. All he needed to do was to live off the huge monthly allowance I provided for him. No, that wasn't enough. You would think that after 3 marriages I would have learned to not pick a man who thinks they can handle me. The son of a bitch. He was given $10 million a year to spend on anything. He didn't pay any bills, didn't pay for food, or his 3 sports cars. He was a flipping playboy who happened to be married. The greedy bastard. I'm not giving him a quarter of my corporation. So, what we need to do is to find some dirt on him or make some dirt on him. Bernadette nodded at her boss and sat in a thoughtful pose, her face mimicking Helen's expression. Inside she was giggling at the predictable situation. Okay, how long have you been married? 4 years. She nodded, still serious in countenance. Do you have any hidden cameras in your house where you can look for any of his indiscretions? This will be good to know for the future. Did you want me to hire a private investigator? Maybe bug his cars? She didn't want to give away too many of her tricks. It would be better for Helen to think she has the mental edge over her. Helen didn't speak for several minutes but just stared blankly at her. She seemed to be processing or formulating an answer. I already have an investigator on him. He doesn't even sleep around. He loves the arts and music and traveling. He's the sensitive type. So handsome, so energetic. When we did have sex, he was phenomenal. I think that's what screwed me up. Ever hear the phrase fucked stupid? I never thought my body could feel so sensual. I loved him. Well, as much as I can love someone. I did make him sign NDAs regarding anything to do with my company. He can't use any of that against me. Bernadette nodded. She understood how love could make a person stupid. It brought her to the seat she was sitting in now. But he couldn't handle me, not for long. Once we got married, he didn't have to woe me, and he stopped trying to please me. Finally, I just moved all his belongings to the second suite in the mansion. He never even mentioned the change or tried to sleep in our bed again. There was another man I met once. Now he was a strapping man. I would have divorced Harry for him. But he rejected me. She looked over at Bernadette and scowled. I made sure he wouldn't reject anyone or work in my circle again. The two sat in silence for a few minutes. Bernadette kept silent, fully aware of what her boss was implying. Okay then. Harry isn't an adulterer. Are all his art pieces authenticated? If not, would they fall back on you or on him? Oh, I like the way you think, Bernadette. I knew I was smart to hire you. If this works out, you might just get another bonus. Helen stood up and slipped into her shoes. I'm going to hire an art authenticator. Maybe Marty will know one. We have certificates for the art, but that doesn't mean someone hasn't flim-flammed us after the fact. What do you need me to do? Besides put you behind bars where you belong. Helen looked at the clock on the wall. It's almost 6 p.m. I'm too frustrated to think anymore tonight. I'm going to pour myself a drink and resolve myself to never marry again. If you last, and so few do, I want you to remind me of that decision from time to time. That's easy enough. I'll be here at 8 tomorrow. Text me if you need me sooner. Helen waved her off and disengaged in any conversation. Clearly she was heading for a major pity party. Jack listened to Bernadette's recounting of the day. I have a good lead where to start then, with the soon-to-be ex-husband. Hopefully he can give us some details on her financial holdings. He scratched the hair on his chin. He's been growing a beard since he got released. I didn't even know she was married. She certainly didn't act like it the last couple of times I saw her. I'll start recruiting him tomorrow. He'll be easy to find since he is a huge art aficionado and a greedy bastard. I bet she would rather see him dead than give him even 1% of her company. Jack drew her a bath and ordered them room service. Something that Helen said was making her mind tick, or rather didn't say. She didn't learn if she had security cameras throughout her whole home. Jack, can you ask Harry about any home security? We still might need to infiltrate her house in the future. Bernadette replayed the conversation recorded on the micro recorder with him. Has he asked too much of her? Should he have done this with just Michael and then to her when his name was cleared? I will give you time to dress. Dinner will arrive in about 10 minutes. She nodded at him, not saying anything. He felt so distant from her. He understood her reasoning, not wanting to divert her energy from the task at hand. He knew how hard Helen Hathaway was on her employees. He wondered how different their lives would be now if he did get hired by Helen and she didn't try to sleep with him. He answered the door, allowing room service to set up their dinner. He patiently waited for Bernadette to join him for dinner. Chapter 7. She entered the room wearing a thin silk robe loosely open to reveal the teddy he bought her for Valentine's Day. Her long dark hair flowed loosely around her face. She moved with the grace of a queen. Her hips swayed sensuously in a slow, deliberate pace toward him. He swallowed hard, instantly turned on by this woman. After more than a dozen years, he still loved her with all his heart. As she reached the table, he stood and pushed in her chair. I ordered the veal and a bottle of Pinot Gris. He remembered she loved white wine. Perfect selection. She smiled and placed a napkin on her lap. They ate in silence, with her giving him flirtatious looks but not speaking. He was confused and horny and unsure of what to say or do. He picked up his fork to begin eating. You've heard what she said. She confirmed what you told me. She set you up. That bitch took you away from me. She is a horrible, lonely shell of a person who uses everyone for her own gains. I could say the same thing about myself, but she takes selfishness to another level. To be honest, I didn't want to believe one woman could be so cruel to want to put you in prison. I was so angry at you for getting caught. We had 2 jobs we were working on. You never once mentioned you were going to meet Helen Hathaway for any reason. We were a team. I spent more than 2 years wondering what else you had going that you didn't tell your wife and partner. Bernadette began crying and put her hands on her lap. I agreed to do this job, not just to clear your name, but to meet the woman I thought you wanted to take my place. But then she double-crossed you and left you to take the fall. When you were arrested, I knew nothing about your business. Do you know how betrayed I felt? In hindsight, it was better that I wasn't a part of whatever you were doing. The police believed I was innocent. And you were. Bernadette the First was wrong to not include you in a potential job. I thought if I met Helen, I would see if she was reliable enough to work with or for. It turns out all she wanted from me was a quick roll in the hay. You never asked me what happened. You didn't trust me enough to know I was working for both of us. I didn't trust you. That was never how we worked. We were a team. What made you think that suddenly I needed to be kept in the dark? That you thought I needed sheltered? For Christ's sake, Jack the First carried us on more than on occasion. Don't you think I haven't been propositioned by others who thought I could do better by myself or on a different team? You fucked up. You broke up the team. I still don't know if I can forgive you for that. After meeting Helen Hathaway, I believe you would never sleep with that piece of work. Even her own husband won't sleep with her. Jack sighed in relief. At least she believed him. Bernie, the truth is I got greedy. I had every intention on telling you about the potential job. But her rejection was so profound, I was set up and arrested within days of meeting her. I just moved on and didn't think twice about that crazy woman. I didn't get the job and forgot about her. She literally meant nothing. I know that sounds lame. I apologize for keeping you out of the loop. It was the biggest mistake I ever made in my whole life. He bowed his head. I lost my freedom and worst of all, I lost my wife and life partner. Nothing in this life is worth losing you again, Bernie. He reached for her hand, but she withdrew and sat back from the table. Bernadette gave him a passive glance and looked over his head. Once we finish these jobs, we can start fresh. Maybe we take the money we earn to start a legitimate business. Maybe become private investigators ourselves. Hell, we know how thieves and con artists think. How perfect would that be? We can move somewhere like Vegas and keep our fees higher to keep the riffraff away. Jack nodded at the Bernadette. I like your idea. Let me tell you my idea. If we can get these 2 jobs done successfully, Michael would hire us, full-time to keep track of his investments. What Bernadette heard was Jack would continue to work for Michael and be his cleanup man. He would always be the bag man doing the grunt work. She didn't want to go back to that life. Maybe given some time he will change his mind. How much security do you need to feel like you can move away from thieving and conning? No, baby, that's not what I'm saying. I want investment training like Wall Street, stocks and bond and S&P. I plan on staying legit. I want to work smart, not work hard. He scooted his chair beside her and held her hand. It will be a legitimate profession, not just a job. If you agreed, we might even start our own investment firm. She looked up at him, appreciating his idea, not sure if they could pull it off. Who was she to deny Jack a better life? Suddenly she was too tired to argue these points. And how would he really start a new life under the maws of billionaire tycoon Michael Haniel? One shady job gives Michael something to hold over Jack. As far as she was concerned, Jack will always be beholden to Michael. Is that how she wants to live her life, beholden to a rich mogul? Maybe she could turn life off just for tonight, and just be with Jack? He surely was the most handsome man she ever met. Even with his beard, his chiseled jaw was the prominent feature to his face. When his piercing blue eyes focused on her, she melted. He was in fact, the only man she ever had sex with. Just sitting beside him now, made her pulse quicken. That sexy cologne he wore turned off her common sense. Her emotions were again, pinging in so many different directions. Bernadette loved her ex-husband more than life and would do anything to clear his name. She closed her eyes, sighing in resignation. His hand gently caressed her thigh. Her legs automatically separated, giving him access to her womanhood. Would share my bed with me tonight? She asked, not needing to open her eyes to know the answer. I would love to spend this night with you, love. The two of them slid into bed, their clothes discarded on either side of the bed. I'm sorry you've had to spend the last week or two on the sofa. Bernadette pouted in reflection. It's all right, babe. It's still more comfortable than my prison bed, he joked at her. I respect your needs and privacy. You need to stay focused and not be disoriented by my sexual prowess, he smiled. She knew he was trying to get a rise out of her. I would say your ego has gotten the best of you, but I know what you do to me. I will allow you a modicum of bravado. She slid closer to him, kissing him fully on the mouth. As long as you show me what this beast of yours is capable of. She grabbed him aggressively, making him moan until he rolled on top of her. Let me show you again how much I've missed you, Bernadette. And for the first time in weeks, Jack slept with Bernadette in the master suite. With Michael's help, Jack easily found Helen's husband, Harry, purveying a few pieces of art he recently purchased. The gossip in the art circles is Harry was heading for a divorce and needed money for his lawyer. Jack knocked on the door to the warehouse where the art was stored. He vaguely remembered seeing a few of these pieces on display at Helen's mansion just 3 years ago. Pardon me, are you Harry? The man stood up, backing away with his hands palms out in front of him. Who wants to know? Whoa, I didn't mean to startle you. My name is Jack. I am, looking for some information concerning Helen Hathaway, and was told you were the one to speak to. Harry put his arms down, no longer keeping a defensive stance. What do you want to know? I'm investigating Miss Hathaway's financial holdings, and though you would be the best place to start. Jack gave Harry his most disarming smile, one that showed Harry he was on his side on not Helen's. Well, sir, she made me sign an NDA regarding her company and their activities. Does that NDA cover fact or fiction? Harry was happy to tell Jack about Helen's shady practices. I've known her to file false insurance claims on various pieces of art, jewelry, even buildings. That isn't part of the NDA, right? I mean, it's her personal belongings, not company holdings or anything. You would be correct. Do you recall what insurance company she uses? Maybe they can clarify a few facts. Harry looked confused for a moment and asked, wait, you're not with the insurance company? I assumed they were auditing her belongings because of our divorce. Let's just say, I represent parties that have suffered from Helen's fabrications of the truth. That was true enough. Harry pulled out a business card. Here is the name of the agent that represents the insurance company for her personal property. It does include most of the art you see here, but she agreed I can sell whatever I wish. He sat down on a crate. She just doesn't want me anymore. She kicked me out of her room, out of her house, and out of her life. I was never going to marry, but Helen just took my breath away. For almost a year we were solid, best friends. She was beginning to teach me the company. Then we got married and she hardened toward me. Like I took something away from her. Jack could tell Harry was heartbroken and understood his feeling. He just couldn't understand the object of his affection. Harry blew his nose with his pocket handkerchief and cleared his throat. I never asked her to change her name or work less or have children. I didn't want to change her, she just changed suddenly. Now all I have is this art and whatever my lawyer can win for me, for my new start in life. May I ask you a couple of more questions?" Harry nodded, still looking dejected. "Does her mansion have security cameras in all the rooms?" He thought about it for a minute. "I don't think so, only the bedrooms, the office, the living room, and there are like 15 cameras on the outside. There is always a security team on the property though. No one enters without them clearing it with Helen or Dutch, her head of security. He's been working for her for almost 10 years now." Jack remembered his encounter with Dutch. The 6'6" man with the scar on his left cheek was intimidating. He never spoke, just stood next to Helen while she interviewed Jack for the job. "She has a secret stash somewhere in the house. I've heard her tell Dutch to put this or that in her secret spot. At first I wondered if it was some euphemism for a sexual relationship." He shook his head. "She spent more time with him than she ever did with me. If I may make a recommendation, don't rush for the divorce just yet. She has no children or family and you are her spouse." Jack stared Harry in the eyes. "Things might get a little heated for her soon." "Thank you, Jack, for your advice." The two men shook hands. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Bernadette woke up alone in her bed. Their lovemaking the previous night made her giddy. Maybe they could find a way to meet in the middle somewhere. She wasn't sure how or where. She just didn't want to be without Jack again. She found him just coming back to the suite, sweating all over with a towel around his neck. "I must have slept in. I didn't realize you worked out in the mornings." Jack taunted her with his sweaty body, trying to corral her with his damp towel. "That's right, you are usually gone before I begin my daily routine. I need to stay fit to protect you from the big bad Helen Hathaway tonight." He flexed his arm muscle and a 3-inch bulge appeared. Bernadette couldn't resist squeezing it and giggled. "I guess you haven't let yourself go while in prison?" "Hell no, there were too many inmates to defend myself against. Meeting Michael early during my stay helped me stay in good with the prison guards, but not the prisoners. All they saw was fresh, white meat to exploit any way they could manage." Jack's voice deepened and he spoke just a bit lower. "I spent more than a few nights in segregation trying to protect myself from opportunists." Bernadette knew what he meant. He had to defend his body in prison. "I never thought that would be something you would go through." So many questions went through her mind. Did you have to join a gang? Did the prison guards protect you? How did you meet Michael anyway? Jack walked to her and gently kissed her on the lips. She didn't fight him for once. "Tell you what, I've ordered breakfast. Let me clean up and in 20 minutes we will have breakfast and talk." She stood wide-eyed and nodded. "Of course I'll be here." While he showered, she thought about how selfish she has been. Not once did she ever consider how he might have suffered physically in prison. Those ideas were from the movies. She didn't think it would have happened to him. Her Jack was tough and strong and could talk his way out of just about any situation. She was horrified to think he was left helpless and abused by other prisoners. This is just another reason he needed to stay away from thieving and conning and whatever else Michael needed him to do. Jack didn't belong behind bars. She made a solemn vow to put Helen Hathaway behind bars for insurance fraud and whatever else Jack found out from Harry. The doorbell rang just as Jack entered the living area. Bernadette opened the door, allowing the staff to set up their meal. Jack gave the young woman a $20 bill. "Thank you, Trina." "Thank you, Mr. Fitzgibbons. See you tomorrow." Suddenly Bernadette felt out of place in the suite she shared with Jack. Embarrassed for not knowing the young woman's name, she smiled at her as she left. One thing prison teaches a person is routine. "I've become a creature of habit." Jack slid back one of the chairs for Bernadette and began pouring the orange juice. "I will admit, I've been so stuck on myself and my hurt. It didn't leave much room to really see how you might have changed." She poured the creamer in both their coffees. "I have noticed the obvious though. You stopped smoking and drinking alcohol. Oh, and that your muscles are bigger, and you have much more stamina." She blushed, thinking about their recent lovemaking. They sat quiet for a few minutes, each in their own thoughts. "You know, babe, this might sound fucked up, but, in some ways, I think me going to prison offered personal growth for both of us. It opened doors of opportunity we would never have otherwise." She didn't respond. She needed to think about what he was saying. Most of her stored emotions are that of anger, abandonment, betrayal, fear, desperation and frustration. How could she think his going to prison was good for her? "I had to work 3 jobs to survive. I used what we had in savings to pay your lawyer. That left me with nothing. I moved in with Gran for about a year until she passed away." She wiped the corner of her eye. "I didn't keep anything that was hers. It all belonged to her children. I was the black sheep. No one cared whether I lived or died. So sorry to hear that your husband went to prison." "Of course he was innocent. Good luck to you, but we are selling Grand's house and you have to leave. Yeah, that's my family. So I took what little I saved and rented that apartment. The one good thing is I only own on the car. I pay everything cash. I realized when you left, I wasn't skilled at anything but hustling. All my jobs are minimum waged. I am a waitress 3 nights a week. I work in the factory Monday through Friday and I clean houses on the weekend. I do exactly what my mother did her whole life. Forgive me if I don't share your warm feelings about you going to prison. She stood up and threw her cloth napkin on the table. I was abandoned, Jack, not just by you but my family and society. Having a husband in prison made me a pariah. I had to file for divorce just so I didn't have to answer where my husband was. It never occurred to me to build my credit score or save money. With you I didn't need to. Without you I couldn't earn enough to save. All my security went with you into that prison. She sat down and put her hands on her head, crying in earnest now. I might as well have been convicted. I might have fared better like you apparently did. She didn't care that she sounded bitter. For 3 years she held in all these emotions. Jack didn't move, didn't speak. He just let her vent. In many ways he did cause all her pain and suffering. He shouldn't have met with Helen Hathaway without her. Shit. In his desire to make it up to her, he never resolved what he caused in her heart and her life. Bernadette, I truly am sorry, for what that's worth. I wished you came to visit me. We could have worked all these things out long ago. I accept you wanting the divorce, but you didn't need to think I betrayed you or us. The room was silent for a few minutes until Bernadette's alarm went off. Oh shit. I need to decide about my warehouse job. I was able to take a couple of weeks off from the part-time jobs. But not the warehouse. He watched Bernie pace the room in contemplation. Tell me what you're thinking. Let me work it out with you, Bernie. You really don't have to make these life decisions by yourself. Not anymore. I came back to be with you, to provide and to be your partner again. I understand what you went through more clearly now. Still she stood silent, staring at her phone, not moving. Okay, tonight is that gala you need to attend. I can be there to protect you. Compared to failing her for the last 3 years, the gesture seemed trivial. He walked over and stood in front of her. In fact, I promise right here and now to always be here for you. I will never do anything that would separate the two of us again. That is, if you will have me. Bernadette, I can't lay claim on you or force my love on you. I can just hope you give me and us a chance for a new beginning. She gave him a hard stare. He could see she was wrestling with big decisions. Still she didn't share her thoughts with him. She pressed a number on her speed dial. Hello. This is Bernadette Boylan. I need to speak to the manager on duty. Silence for a few minutes. Hello, Mrs. Person. This is Bernadette Boylan. I apologize for this unconventional call, but I have been taken out of state on a family situation. I feel I need to resign my position on the floor at this time. They made eye contact, her gaze emotionless towards him. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate the well wishes. Unfortunately, I just don't know when I will be able to get back and feel someone else may truly need the work. Thank you for the opportunity. He didn't know what to think. It made sense, but what did her decision mean? Jack didn't want to pressure her with his questions. Surely she meant to stay with him. Bernadette threw her cell phone on the sofa. I need to start getting ready for tonight. Helen wants me to arrive 3 hours before the gala to make sure she is put together. Getting to business was more comfortable to Jack. Bernadette needed to decide on where they are going as a couple and a team. Until then, he would do whatever it took to build her trust again. That reminds me, I have the microphone attached to your necklace. It's linked to Michael's system. If you do get her to admit to anything, the police and the insurance company will hear it and immediately come in for the arrest. Helen trusts me more since I've helped her work out her husband dilemma. I will press her tonight's subtlety. She has a pretty big ego. I think she wants me to see she has all this control over men. Where would you like me to post up until you need me? She stopped at the bedroom door and turned around. Wherever you can be without Helen knowing you are out of prison. Her smile broke some of his tension. He grinned back at her. I will put on a slight disguise. Between this new growth, he scratched his beard. A pair of glasses and a catering outfit should keep me off her radar. Sounds perfect. Jack, I could use some help with my dress in a bit if you will have the time. He bowed low, looking up at her. I am, forever your servant, madam. She nodded and closed the door behind her, leaving him still unsure where he stood with his ex-wife. At least she hasn't kicked me out of the suite. Anger he could work with. Apathy he couldn't. Chapter 9. Chapter 9. Oh, thank God you're here. Helen turned from her vanity to face her assistant. Her jaw dropped. You look stunning. I hope you can make me look as put together. Bernadette gave Helen her most ingratiating smile, waving her off. I've seen your dress, no one will even notice me standing right next to you. She was, of course, playing down how she looked. The floor-length dress, alternated in red and fuchsia sequins, clung to her size 8 body. Her hair delicately worn high in an ornate Regency-style fashion. The microphoned necklace, simple yet elegant, hung 1 inch above her ample cleavage line. Helen stared at her assistant, stood up and looked at the necklace. It was very close in appearance to the very stone she accused Jack of stealing. Of course it was a knockoff. The jewel Helen had was 3 times the size and worth millions. This stone only cost about $1,500. Bernadette knew how to push people's buttons. Once she knew what made them tick, she used that information for her own purpose. Tonight she planned on bringing Helen's memory of Jack to the forefront of her mind. She needed her to admit she put her husband behind bars for a lie. Let's start with your hair and makeup. I know exactly what to do with your eyes. 2 hours later, Helen looked at herself in her vanity. Bernie worked a small miracle. Is there anything you can't do, Bernadette? Helen's dress was light pink with shoulder ruffles and a ruffle sash that crossed from the top right of her body over her chest and wound down to the left thigh. Helen was at least 15 years older but kept herself fit. What about earrings? I have the perfect pair. She opened her jewelry box. After a few minutes she found the pair on the bottom of a disorganized box of jewels. Perfect, I think you are a masterpiece. Bernadette grabbed her boss's clutch and handed it to her. We are on schedule for a 6:15 arrival. Helen moaned as she glanced around the room of the Ritz-Carlton. The same people year after year. She stopped just feet of the bar and took a couple of steps back. Bernadette, I need you to run interference for me with the man heading to the bar. His name is Thomas Kane. He is hosting this charity event, but his officious manner grates on my nerves. I don't think he saw me yet. She placed her hand on Bernadette's shoulder. Just introduce yourself and make small talk while I visit the ladies' room. Without another word, Bernie walked to the bar and made eye contact with Mr. Kane. Tell me she didn't send you to run interference. He gave her a wink. Not that I mind. A gorgeous woman such as yourself only makes my gala that much more impressive. What are you drinking, miss? Bernadette laughed, realizing Helen was notorious for being antisocial at social events. Bernadette, and I'm on the clock, so sparkling water is perfect. I see Helen is stepping up in the world with better and better personal assistants. Last year that mousy Megan was all but eaten up by mean old Helen. I wondered if we would see her this year. Again, Thomas Kane looked Bernadette up and down. Yes, definitely a pleasant change. We are having a silent auction tonight. There are about 15 pieces of jewelry and artwork up for grabs. Will you be purchasing for Helen, or will she grace us with an appearance? Bernadette didn't know. Helen didn't mention the details of the gala, just that she would be bored to tears. Good question, Mr. Kane. Thomas, please, I can tell just by your demeanor, you won't be a personal assistant forever. He laughed at his observation and ordered their beverages. Well, no matter, if you can persuade Helen to at least look at the auction items, she might be surprised at the quality this year. Here is your sparkling water. He bowed and walked away. This couldn't be more perfect. She set about finding her employer, and together they scrutinized the jewels and art. Thomas Kane thought you might be interested in some of these. I can see what he meant. Helen didn't speak but nodded slightly as she inspected each piece carefully. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would find your seats, we will begin serving dinner. Bernadette led Helen to their table. It was a small gala, 10 tables of 10 around the hall. Bernie RSVP'd requesting the chicken for both. The wait staff began distributing the meals. She casually looked around, trying to spot Jack among them. It surprised her that he was their waiter. Helen never even looked up at him. Too bad too. He looked particularly hot in those fake glasses. The suit fit like a tailored tuxedo, and his trimmed beard and mustache made him look like a GQ model. She could see herself married to him again. They briefly made eye contact and he winked at her. Not wanting to draw attention to him, she placed her napkin on her lap and grabbed a dinner roll. I hope they cooked the chicken well this time. Helen rolled her eyes. As the night progressed, one speaker after another praised the Homeless Association and their yearly contribution to stop homelessness. Some joked, some became teary-eyed. Many promoted their charitable endeavors, giving dates and names of celebrity guests headlining said events. Bernadette socialized around the table, catching a few familiar names here and there. Mostly she kept Helen engaged in conversation about the quality of the auction items. A booklet itemizing each item was distributed along with the envelopes for sealing. What do you think, Helen? Which one caught your eye? Bernadette offhandedly caressed the necklace around her neck. Helen's gaze followed her movement. The two women sat quietly for a few minutes, each looking over the auction items. It's funny, Bernadette, I just now realized what attracts me to your necklace. Here we go. This cheap thing, Bernadette waved her hand in the air. The jewels here are much more impressive, don't you think? Helen nodded but didn't speak for another minute. Their table cleared of the other attendees and they were left alone. The gem on your necklace reminds me of this jewel I have at my home. It's larger, of course, and better quality. But it could be its sister stone in shape and design. Bernadette nodded and offhandedly continued the conversation. I'm surprised you aren't wearing it. Looking around the room here, most of the jewelry is pretty gaudy. She could see Helen wanted to tell her story but still didn't spill her guts. Bernie tried another tactic. I bought this necklace after my last relationship ended. He left me for some trollop, rejecting everything we worked on for 3 years. Helen perked up, suddenly interested in her story. Bernadette bowed her head and sighed. Men, some of them can be so cruel. I mean, I know I'm not the most beautiful woman in the world, but whatever. I always thought there was somebody for everyone. Though he was my somebody until he rejected my love. Helen snorted in disgust. I knew a man like that once. I would have offered him the world. I met him one night, he was looking for work. Helen looked past her, deep in her own thoughts. Jack was one of the handsomest men I ever met, tall, muscular, in that rugged way. His blue eyes so alert and predatorial. I offered him my body, even for just one night. She sat up tall, shook off the disgust. Was this before you married Harry? I was married to Harry, about a year into our marriage. I moved him out of our bedroom. Jack came to the mansion and we talked about a certain task I needed done. It was instant attraction. But he is all business, that one. We drank together, talked about my needs. I practically threw myself at him. She turned her attention back to Bernadette. Bernie sat perfectly still and raised her eyebrow at Helen. He blew me off, she continued slowly, totally rejected me. I do the rejecting, not the other way around. His loss, Bernadette said nonchalantly. Oh ho, more than you think. I lifted his prints off the glasses he used and set him up for the theft of my jewel. He stole your jewel? She asked, feigning surprise. No, I just set him up for the theft. I still have it at the house, hidden with other very personal items. You really are a piece of work, Helen Hathaway, Bernadette said with a calm measure. Why, of course, dear. You don't get to the level of corporate dominance by letting the riffraff get the best of you. You'll learn. She took a sip of her drink and sat with a smug look on her face. Bernadette couldn't believe it. Helen was stupid enough to spill everything. There was no walking back this confession. Got it, babe. Great work. It's uploaded now and the DA is ready to come in for the arrest, Jack whispered in her earpiece. Just keep her there for another 5 minutes and then justice will finally be served. Would you like this piece to go with the other one? I mean, if you can't use that one, maybe this could be its surrogate, so to speak. Bernie tried to sound so caring and selfless. Inside she was enraged at the utter gall of this woman sitting right next to her. God no, you keep it. If it reminds you of a second chance at life without rejection, it's worth whatever you paid for it. Michael and the police were behind her about 50 feet. Helen was not aware of her pending doom. I want to thank you, Helen, for giving me a second chance at life. Helen waved her hand, feeling magnanimous. Jack walked up beside her chair and stood beside her, just looking at Helen. It took her a minute to recognize him with the beard. Bernadette stood up slowly. You see, Jack was my husband of 10 years. She put her arm around Jack, looking smugly at Helen. We had a life that you took away from us. I feel it's only right that we return the favor. The police surround Helen. Helen Hathaway. You are under arrest for insurance fraud and falsely accusing a person of a crime that was not committed. One of the policemen grabbed Helen by the arm and stood her up. Hands behind your back. She was taken away without saying another word. Michael stayed until Helen was removed from the gala. By now everyone stood along the sidelines and just watched the police take Helen away. Many people at the gala knew Michael and seemed just as shocked he was there and out of prison. He nodded at a couple of people but turned his attention to the couple in front of him. Great job, Bernadette. Jack told me you had a way with people. I didn't understand the extent of your talent. Bernadette didn't say anything in response. Michael took this as his cue to leave. We'll talk soon. He nodded at Jack and left the couple alone. Jack picked up the booklet. Did you see anything you were interested in bidding on? Bernadette sat down, still not speaking. She took a couple of sips of the white wine on the table. She removed the necklace, placing it gently in her clutch. Jack sat patiently beside her, not moving, just looking around as if protecting her from anyone who might want to approach them. Finally she spoke. She really did set you up. She looked at Jack, sadness in his eyes. He nodded but didn't say anything in response. So many emotions washed through her, none of them good. She wasn't ready to process them yet. Will you take me home, Jack? Of course, my love. He stood up and held his hand out for her. She reached for his hand, relieved he was here. His gentle squeeze gave her the strength she needed to walk out of the event with her head held high. Half of the guests clapped at her as she passed the main crowd. She smirked and stopped when Thomas Kane approached. I knew there was more to you than some paltry personal assistant. He handed her his business card. Come see me when you are ready for something bigger and better. He nodded at Jack and stepped away, allowing them to leave the event. That's my girl making friends wherever she goes. Bernadette allowed Jack to help her out of her clothes and into a bubble bath. Neither one spoke since the gala. Jack, will you join me in the tub? I thought you'd never ask. He smiled and stripped his clothes in less than 20 seconds. He sighed in relief as the last few weeks' stress melted in the hot tub. Finally, his name will be cleared. And the woman who framed him was in custody. He looked at Bernie in awe. I'll never understand how you get people to spill their guts the way you do. He couldn't tell what she was thinking or feeling. Her silence alarmed him. Talk to me, Bernadette. Tell me what's on your mind. She submerged herself into the water and came up looking like a bubble goddess. Water has always been a catharsis for her. Jack, please forgive me for not believing when you tried to tell me the truth. I was so wrapped up in my feelings I didn't want to believe anything you said. She turned on the water jets and floated up by the pressure of the 6 jets. Her breasts bouncing up like buoys, causing Jack's eyes to focus on them. She sat up straight, staring at him. I wish there wasn't this space between us, Bernie. Though he was relieved, he was frustrated they didn't more readily form a bond. He wanted his wife back. He owned up to keeping her out of the loop. That's got to mean something. Her eyes softened toward him. I don't want you to think I want this space you feel. Of course I wanted to clear your name. I'm disappointed in myself how easily I fell back into conning. He started to respond, but Bernadette held up her hand. He held his tongue and waited for her to continue. So many of Helen's issues were so valid to me. She is a nasty, callous, lonely woman. I hate her for what she did to you, but I can relate to her. The desire for control, the need to be on top of the food chain, especially as a woman. Since I stopped conning, I've seen more men trying to take advantage of me. It takes all my willpower to not turn the table on their manipulation. I see myself in Helen. I'm afraid if I continued, I could become the worse of what she represents in a strong, powerful woman. Jack understood her more than she knew. The men incarcerated were evil, vile, the dregs of humanity. I saw the worst in men and vowed to find a legitimate way to make money. That's when I met Michael. We spent months processing my triggers, the things that made me take the easy way out of most situations. Grifting and thieving were the skills I developed and didn't try anything else. Working with you made our lifestyle easy. We considered ourselves divestors of the excesses of those who had more. We justified taking their money or whatever we wanted. Bernie, I don't want to steal. I don't want to lie. But I do need to fulfill my end of the bargain with Michael. He convinced the DA that what we were doing was not against the law, that whatever Helen said was not coerced. You did such a perfect job pushing Helen's buttons. It was obvious she just wanted to boast of her control. The insurance company is going to press full charges and intend to investigate her whole art collection. This will freeze her assets for months. He watched her process and waited for her response. What's next then? That depends on you, babe. Do you want to help me with Michael's situation? The sooner we can get to living our own lives again, just the two of us. But you still want to stay working for Michael once his name is cleared, correct? I want whatever you want. I can become a personal investor and make millions trading while we decide what we want to do. He scooted next to her, putting his arm around her neck. As long as we are together, I will be happy. Chapter 10. Chapter 10. Bernadette didn't respond. She couldn't yet resolve what he needed to do to get his true freedom. Jack helped her out of the tub, wrapping the thick terry cloth robe around her. She knew he felt helpless, that he truly thought he was on a path to financial freedom. Maybe he was, and she was being short-sighted. He gently hugged her and took her hand. Please, come with me to the living room. I have some things to show you. Once she was seated, he left for a minute, returning with some papers in his hand and sat beside her. See, Bernadette, this is my checking account, and these are my check stubs. I am legitimately working on the books for Michael. No shady business. I have been taking some online classes, learning about investing and investments and the stock market. It's what I've been doing every day practically since I got out of prison. She looked at his wages. He's paying you this much just to learn the trade. She eyed him with suspicion. He calls it an investment in all our future. We took a lot of time to figure out what my talents are. Jack laughed. We learned I am great with numbers and figures. I have a knack for guessing what companies are going to do well or flop. She nodded. We used to play the odds like that in the past. Jack nodded. Yes, but see, this is legal guessing. What I analyze as an investor can make or break a client. I'm learning about how companies and corporations grow, how they diversify, how they sell shares to investors, how their stocks stay healthy. Bernie, it's a whole new world out there and I've been making honest money. See here, he showed her his portfolio. It already had several millions from investments. Impressive, Jack. How did you come up with the money to initially invest? Michael loaned me $10,000, which I already paid him back. He was proud of his achievements. Now he needed Bernadette to realize he was ready to take care of her for the rest of their lives. He placed all his financial papers on the table before her. I will never hold back information from you again. If you decide to stay with me, we can finish up this one last situation for Michael. I don't want to be without you ever again, Bernadette. Maybe we can finally find a real home, with a yard and find fun things to do. I like the private investigator idea. Talking with Harry made me think we would be great at that. All the while investing and making our money work for us. Working smart, not hard. That is my motto. Bernadette took in everything that Jack was saying. All of it sounded good on paper. She just wasn't convinced Michael's money wasn't dirty. Is Michael's corporation legitimate? Jack nodded. He's a real investing wizard. That's how he figured out my talent. We spent 6 months looking at the stock market. Every day he asked me to look at the companies and try to figure out which would grow or fail. She was interested in the process and sat back on the sofa, bent her legs to the side. Was all this just practice? Yes, and damn, I wish it wasn't. I literally would have triple what I have now in the bank. Jack shook his head and laughed. That's why Michael chose to include me in the business. He saw my potential and wants me to better myself. So, when we got out, the first thing we did was invest the $10,000 and well, you see what's happened. She watched him lean back and rub his eyes. I bet you are relieved this part is over. I have a lawyer and he thinks I should file a civil suit against Helen. Hell, I could win 25% of her company. She hadn't thought about that. Sounds like you have a great lawyer. It's Michael's personal lawyer. Yeah, and before you say it, I know he didn't get Michael off, but that doesn't mean he isn't a great attorney. He just didn't have enough to clear Michael's name. Bernadette nodded and smiled. I understand what you meant when you said, going to prison might have been the best thing that could have happened for us. I mean, I learned what I didn't want. I learned how to take care of myself. I learned to rely on myself, to trust that I wouldn't fall apart. She looked over at Jack. I nearly did fall apart though, Jack. I was homeless for a short while until Gran took me in. Can you imagine that, being homeless? Jack shook his head. That's what I'm working to prevent. If you gave me another chance, I will never let any harm come to you. You will never have to be without me, or a home or security. As a matter of fact, I plan on taking some of our earnings and creating an annuity. So if anything tragic happened, we are secure in our future. Bernie shakes her head. No, no, no. Jack, can't Michael get a different lawyer or hire better private investigators? Why do you have to be a part of his revenge? Can't you just be your own man and take your money and start new? It's not about revenge, Bernie. I owe Michael for my life, for my freedom, for being able to get out of prison early and to be sitting with you right now. And truth be told, nothing is worth doing without you. You are my partner, my better half. She could tell how sincere he was. Even appreciated him wanting to own up to his part of the plan with Michael. Maybe she could help him and try to keep things above the law. Maybe she could learn a thing or two from Jack about investments. She looked at her ex-husband and clasped his hand. The truth was, she didn't want to be without him. She was just afraid what they needed to do would get him killed. Okay, here's the deal. I love you, Jack Fitzgibbons. Always have, since high school. I don't want to think of my life without you again. She took in a deep breath and looked Jack in the eyes. I will help you find out who killed Michael's parents. Maybe we can do this without anyone getting killed. This could be the beginning of a new life with the love of her life. A new idea came to mind. Oh, and one more thing. I want to get married again. A real wedding this time, not just go to the justice of the peace and sign a paper. I will have a real wedding dress, and I want to get married in Las Vegas. And I want Elvis to marry us. Jack got on his knees and held her hands. All right then, you name the date and I will be there. He kissed each hand and smiled. I can't wait to call you my wife again. About the author. USA Today best-selling author, Victoria Pinder grew up in Irish Catholic Boston, then moved to Miami. Eventually found that writing is her passion. She always wrote stories to entertain herself. Her parents are practical-minded people demanding a job. But when she sat down to see what she enjoyed doing, writing became obvious. Visit my website and download a free novel, www.victoriapinder.com. Victoria at victoriapinder.com.